They're all going to look the same. But somebody is going to come in and say, you know what? I don't want white tiles. I want a blue backsplash, and I want pink walls, and I want green, trim. And but AI would never do that. But all those people who don't have the creativity to do that, that's fine. They're going to have beautiful white kitchens.
So thank you for rejoining us, Carla.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So tell us, when we met you in April 22, you were at G2, fantastic company based out of Chicago, which is where you are. Since then, things have changed for you a little bit, not only jobs and so on. So tell us a little bit, give us kind of an update of where you're at.
Yeah, gosh, since 2022, I feel like everything has changed in my life and the world, everything.
Right.
I was at G2. I moved over I'm at Spotify now. I've been there for coming on 3 years. Does that sound right? 3 years. I had a child. That changed. I became a mom, and that really that I don't remember my life before that. I don't remember what it was like to have time.
I know.
Free time? What's that? I don't know. Yeah, so I'm at Spotify now. I've been there for almost 3 years, coming up in June, and I have a child, and I'm in Chicago still, but I'm actually in the process of selling my home and moving back to New York. So a lot has changed.
Wow.
I'm still an engineer, though. Yes.
What do you do at Spotify?
I'm a web engineer, so I work on front end, which, I'm sure we're going to get into the whole AI world, especially with being a web engineer and what that's like. But yeah, a lot. I used to build websites and write code. I don't know if I would say I do that anymore. I build things, but I don't write the code as much.
That's changed, right? It's 22.
Yeah.
That's a big conversation, which is like, do we feel like that's going to end up being the new norm? What does that new norm look like?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it changed so fast that I'm still like kind of processing it. I think as everybody, there's a million articles being written every day about what this means for the future of engineering. Will web engineers even exist in the future? Will UI designers exist? Will it all just be under product management? I will say there are certain things right now where I feel pretty secure that my job is going to exist for a little while longer. I use Claude Code, I use Cursor, and I kind of bounce back and forth between the two tools. And I will say they're both good for different things. And as I adjust, and as we all kind of adjust to the different workflows with how I, as a web engineer, work with design and work with PM, there's a lot of gray area in there for how we're kind of working together. But I do think it's going to take a little bit longer before we figure out what those workflows actually look like, and before any of our roles are completely eliminated. So fingers crossed, I will still have a job by the time that this podcast airs.
So what pushed you into moving back to New York? Well, full transparency, Carla and I did speak prior to this, so I have some idea of what this answer might be, but what was it that was for you? You were like, hey, I'm in Chicago, I want to move back to New York. What are some reasons for that?
Well, the main reason is my husband got laid off because he worked in tech, and he's a writer, and AI has come for many, many writing jobs. But so we are moving back because he's going to be going to school in New York. But the other part of that is that for me, as an engineer, I've worked full-time remotely for the entirety of my career as an engineer, and I have never been in an office. I have no idea what it's like to be around people in this industry. And I have found, after 5 years of working from my home, I'm very isolated. I feel like I have no connection. I have no network. If something were to happen to my job, I haven't spent any time curating a network of people. I don't know tech people in Chicago because I don't work for a Chicago company. Everybody I know, my whole network is really in New York. So a huge part of moving back is that I need to go to the office. I need to. I don't have to. I would like to. I want to just make sure everyone knows, like, Spotify is not forcing us to return to the office. That is not a thing they're doing. But I recognize, for my own mental health, just the importance of leaving my home, being around people, interacting, water cooler chat, I would love to know what else is going on. I worked on Wrapped this year, and I was not there on launch day. I flew out the day after for the party, but I wasn't there for launch day. And I found just not being in the office for launch, there was a bunch of stuff that happened that I totally missed. And I had no idea what was going on, because as much as you can update people through Slack channels, there's still a lot of things that happen that they happen too fast and nobody ever writes about them in Slack. And I think just for the future of my career, I think it's really important that I get back into the office. I like people. It's one of my top skills, I think, was my communication skills. So if people can't see it, what am I doing?
Yeah, and you're not alone. I would say it's interesting. Over the last couple of months, I would say more and more, even the people that I don't believe that are probably as social as you are saying something very similar. Where online, I feel like a lot of people feel like everybody wants remote jobs, but as I've spoken to people and as my team has spoken to people, especially in New York and Chicago and San Francisco and Seattle, I'm getting more and more people wanting to go back into the office. Now, I don't see people wanting to be in the office 5 days a week. That part has been shot. That no longer exists. But like being in the office 3 days a week is like what everybody seems to want. And so I've asked so many people, it's like all things created equal. Would you rather a job that's 5 days in office, hybrid with some flexibility, or 100% remote? And I'd say almost everybody, this is an exaggeration, but like 90%, 85% feels like they want hybrid right now.
Yeah, I would never, I am beyond grateful that I was able to be fully remote when I had my kid, because that flexibility really helped with just postpartum, even being pregnant. I can't even imagine how women are pregnant on the subway going to an office. Like, I was on the couch for 9 months. So like, I am beyond grateful for the opportunity to have been fully remote during all of that. And I, like you said, like that flexibility, I think is still really important, and recognizing that people do still have times where they cannot physically go to an office, and how important that is to make sure that they're not like penalized for it. But being able to go in maybe 1, 2, 3 days a week just to connect is, I think, really, really important just for human beings, right?
Shane, you and I don't know if you even remember this. Our first podcast that we did was like in 2021. We call it a podcast. I would say conversation we recorded is probably a better way of describing what we do. The first conversation we recorded, we talked about returning to office. I think we were pretty spot on. We said that it would definitely come back. We were a little bit late, right? I think we assumed it was going to happen in 22. It didn't. But I think you're seeing people are recognizing the value of being together. And I think at first there was the pushback. They want me in office so they can watch what I do every day and every minute. And I think they're finding out actually as they're at home, and there's all these programs where you can measure where the mouse goes and the clicks and was I working? And they're like, that is true micromanagement. But actually being in office has more to do with like what you say, which is launch day for the product you built, the team being together to see it getting built. There were probably 1,000 problems that happened that were solved within seconds. And like you said, they didn't talk about them on Slack channels. They just quickly like, whatever, fix the bug or whatever, you guys had to do. And you weren't part of it because you weren't there, right? And so those little things, not to mention the water cooler connection with someone on your team that helped build something with you, where you just know that this weekend they went to their grandparents' house for Easter or whatever it was that happened. You're having those conversations. Those do go a really long way in working together and collaborating.
I also think in the time of AI, I've been thinking about this a lot, as I've been using it so much, the skill that I have as my interpersonal skills, right? The fact that I have an education degree, the fact that I'm a theater person and I'm very good at communication is a huge part as to why I work well with the AI tools. I know how to explain what I need. I know how to explain to like nauseating depth and specificity of what I need the AI to do for me. And it's also the thing that is going to help me as I decide to navigate where my career will go. If I want to go into management, if I want to, stay as an engineer, but those skills also require other people to recognize them. And if no one is seeing that you have those skills, I'm just another engineer who works from home working with AI, and I'm very easy to be part of the next round of layoffs.
Yeah.
The way I've looked at it is like it's really easy just to be another KPI on a dashboard without necessarily like actually being able to show the additional things, the above and beyond things. Because as I've talked to a lot of companies and helped them build out their leveling guides and help them building out, how do you put somebody on a promotional track? What does that promotional track mean? It's like there are KPIs, there are things that you're expected to do, but typically when people start getting promoted, it's because they're doing something that's likely above and beyond their individual skill set, above and beyond their individual scope of work. And by doing that and taking that step forward, and taking that initiative to do additional things, they ultimately end up getting promoted. And we talk to people on this podcast all the time about it, where it's like, I did these additional things, which got me to level up. But it's like, how do you show up and do these additional things when you're at home and you don't know what these additional things are? Because a lot of times those additional things show up in the water cooler talk, show up in the, I'm really frustrated like at lunch because this thing is keeping me up at night. And you hear an executive say it or a friend say it or a colleague say it. And you're like, oh, interesting. Well, when I finish this thing early, because I inevitably will, most people's scope of work is, they assume that you can get 100% of your tasks in about 75% of your time. So typically there's like 25% of your time that's like built into your role, where it's like, do whatever you want. And it's like, how do I use that 25% of my time to ultimately get promoted, to ultimately do something additional above and beyond? But it's like, unless you have that water cooler talk, unless you build those interpersonal relationships and you start hearing these things outside of your personal team and your personal project and your personal deliverables, how do you do that?
Yeah, I used to teach a lot of theater students. And a lot of the things I would say whenever I would do master classes and they would ask about, what's the best way to get my foot in the door and get on Broadway? And I would tell them, honestly, be the kind of person that people want to work with. That's how you become a Broadway star, right? You be the kind of person that people want to have in the room. And if no one knows who you are, how are you going to get in the room? Right. And then how are you going to build and grow your career if no one is able to actually see who you are and learn that you are actually a kind person who brings really interesting ideas to the table, if you're just kind of sitting in a dark room by yourself all day long? I think everything is networking, right? At the end of the day, you can be the most talented person on the planet. Either you can be an incredible singer, an incredible actor, an incredible engineer. You can be all of these things. You can be the best. But if nobody knows who you are, if nobody wants to spend any time with you or want to keep you around, none of that stuff matters, right? I always say, like, that's why I'm really good at interviewing, because I know how to talk to people, right? I was telling you.
Read an audience.
Yeah, I know what like a conversation is supposed to feel like. I know how to make the people I'm talking to feel like they're connecting with me. Not that I'm like that manipulative, but like I've spent a lot of time studying actors, being an actor and studying how to be a person. And so I think those skills are really important. It's really important to understand what helps you build your career. And it really is, at the end of the day, do people want to be around you? Do they want to see you every day? Do they want to interact with you? If they don't want to interact with you, it's going to be really hard to grow your career.
Yeah. So you have an interesting lens, because yes, you were on Broadway, right? Wicked and all these famous things on Broadway. You're at Spotify, so you're pretty heavily rooted in the entertainment business, if you will. At least you see it from an engineer perspective. And we talk a lot about the noise that AI is creating. Are you seeing it at Spotify, where music is being created by a computer instead of by Jelly Roll or whatever? And right in this, and I'm not really into country music, but I know he's famous. So these AI generated music, is that something that's a conversation going on at Spotify? How to recognize that it was generated by a bot and it wasn't a person with a creative behind it that's human? Does it matter?
Okay, so full transparency, I work in podcasts. And so I am not like full in conversations about what is going on the music side of Spotify.
Okay.
But to be fair, like to the AI conversation of music, I think inevitably, anytime there is a new technology, it's going to be used. I think I read some story about the player piano and when the player piano was created, and everybody was like, "Oh, the player piano, it's gonna eliminate pianists. There will be no more pianists because why would you want to learn to play the piano if a computer can make this piano play?" And great composers were writing for player pianos, creating incredible music that a hand could not create. But it is 2026, right? It is 2026. Do you see player pianos?
No.
We as human beings chose real pianists, real artists, because we can tell the difference, right? There is no soul in a player piano. And so I do think with AI being this new shiny thing, inevitably there is going to be this like influx of technology trying to create music and trying to do all of these things. But inevitably, human beings can tell the difference. There's no soul in it. And we know when something was created by a human and has that human touch and it doesn't. It just feels empty. And so I do think right now, yes, it's this fun, shiny thing, but I don't think it call me in 10 years and tell me I'm wrong. Maybe I'm totally off on this.
I think it's a great point.
There's a combination of that. And then I also think there's the combination of people like to see people live. I know, like, for me, it's like my artists, like the artists that I love the most, I want to be able to see them live. I want to hear them live. Like, I love acoustic music. I love when people can strip it down and just like listen to like them, like totally just right there in person and be able to be a fan. And it's like, unfortunately, a lot of the alternatives, the AI stuff, which I will be honest, I'm producing a lot of AI music myself right now, and I'm having a lot of fun doing it because I'm like making music I want to listen to that nobody's making right now. Like, whatever. I made some house Christian music. There's no house Christian music. Fun. It was a good time. Now, I had a buddy go, I would rave to that. And I'm like, I feel like I understand why there's no house Christmas music, Christian music now with that response. But it, like, some of it's fun and but I do think that there's this, but I can't do that in person. There's this human disconnect, which is no different than some of the other things that we're talking about, right?
Yeah, and also music is inherently not AI is inherently not creative, right? It is building off of things that have already been created. And so humans are the ones that can break the patterns, and we are the ones that are going to make the new interesting things. I watched some weird video of some musicians dressed in like all polka dot black and white.
Oh, you watched it too.
I saw it on my TikTok feed and I was like, this is so interesting. And I guess like I know enough about it, but they're like creating music that is very anti-pattern of what AI is.
I guess it went viral. I don't even have social media, and I read an article about it, and then I got stuck watching it, and it went viral, and it sounds like Primus. Primus from the, I guess, 90s, and it's very strange. It's actually really cool. It's French. Just two people, right? Two band members and
just two of them. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you probably should drop acid prior to listening to it, and then it would be like wild.
Well, I literally just had a conversation with a kid that's in his senior year in high school, and they were going through music theory. And one of the conversations that they had was specifically about the Beatles, about how the Beatles had adjusted how music was being done. And they went through like this LSD era where if you read through the lyrics, it was like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, it shouldn't be written this way, but yet people love it. And to your point, it's like AI would likely never do something where it does that, like what the Beatles did, which it didn't follow a structure, didn't follow the rules. It wasn't necessarily. And so it's just like, will we start seeing that in AI? I don't know. Probably not, because it has to have rules and structure.
It doesn't know how to do it. And so in like the same way Picasso, right, was a brilliant painter and then threw the rules out. And you look at his abstract work and you're like, this doesn't follow the rules. But we wouldn't have Picasso if Picasso is AI, right? We wouldn't have all of those incredible abstract paintings that he created. And so yes, AI is great. Sure, it's fun. You created some really fun music that you like to listen to. Great. People are out there creating really fun websites. Great.
I don't know about you, but that's sort of how I feel about, like, when you think about the future of software development, when you think about the future of like front end development, like, it's such an intimate experience when you think about like user experience and UX and UI, where it's just like there's eventually going to be a paradigm where it's like if all of it is built by AI, it's just going to all look the same. It's going to all feel the same. And it's just like every website and every competitor and everybody, it's like, how do you start differentiating the difference? And yeah, you might be able to develop some products that make things easier, but it's just like, is it something that's going to capture attention? Is it going to be fun to use, or is it just primitive, accessible? I can use it. I don't know. That'll be interesting to see over the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's basically creating. Everybody has access to build something that looks nice, right? Everybody has access to build a cookie cutter white kitchen with white tiles and whatever. They're all going to look the same. But somebody is going to come in and say, you know what? I don't want white tiles. I want a blue backsplash, and I want pink walls, and I want green, trim. But AI would never do that. But all those people who don't have the creativity to do that, that's fine. They're going to have beautiful white kitchens. They're going to have their own thing. It's going to be cheaper for them to build their own things. Everybody can have their own personal website. Great. And they all won't look like the worst website ever created, right? So it's fine. I think that's what's really nice about it. It's created a lot of accessibility to a lot of people who didn't have access to certain things before.
Are you seeing it in the recruiting space? You're a web engineer at Spotify, so I'm sure recruiters reach out to you
all the time.
All the time. They send you emails and everything else. Are you looking at it? And obviously you love Spotify, so I know you're not going anywhere, but you get the emails and you're like, gosh, this is such an AI generated, like, you're wasting my time. Like, stop.
I don't even open them, if I'm being totally honest. I get them and I'm like, I don't need to go work at Meta. I don't need to go work at this whatever company. I don't care. I know when I'm ready, I will do the reaching out. And so maybe for somebody who is not me, who is ready and looking, they're going to check those emails, but it just all feels very soulless. Like there's not actually a person. Like I was saying, my husband has been applying for jobs and he was like, it's awful. It just feels so icky being on LinkedIn. Like you don't know if you're talking to a human being. Half of the interview process isn't with a human being. It just feels so icky. And like full transparency, we're elder millennials, okay? Like we are not, like we grew up with doing the process of this before computers even existed, before LinkedIn existed, right? And I don't see this as the future. I don't think it's working. People are really upset that they cannot connect with human beings during this process.
What has been your husband's biggest frustration? Because we're hearing it all the time, and we hear clients say it all the time, and like they don't know how to break through the noise. And fortunately and unfortunately, that is some of the reason why they end up working with us and working with a third-party recruiting agency, is because we'll pick up the phone and have real human conversations. But I'll even say this: there are times where I talk to people and they're like, "Are you real or are you a bot?" And they're like giving me these commands and these prompts as if I'm an AI bot. It's wild that like I'm using a voice, like I'm using I have to like write emails where I deliberately make mistakes and I deliberately misspell things on purpose, literally so people think that I'm real, which I am real. But like sometimes I can't use grammatically correct sentences sometimes because they just naturally assume I'm AI. So I'm curious as to like, what are some of the things that you've heard from maybe your husband throughout his experience that maybe felt positive or felt different or felt human? I don't know.
The bar is so low. It's really sad that you have people asking you if you're real.
Human and you win.
Like, tell me like the most interesting thing about you. And like, I don't know. I just can't imagine how awful that must feel on both ends for both of you. I will start with the worst thing he's gone through with the interview process. And I don't know if we have any positives, because right now he's so pushed out of the job market that he's going back to grad school because there's no jobs. There's no jobs in copywriting. If you know a job in copywriting, let me know, freelance, but like, there's just not a lot of copywriting jobs. He went through one interview process that was like, they took his resume and it created a test he had to take that was like all these fake scenarios based on what was on his resume, but it was like 2 options and there was no other option. There was no third option to be like, neither of those options are right. And so both options would be like generated nonsense. They were absolute banana crazy, insane responses. And there was no room for any nuance. And he was like, I don't even know how to answer these because neither of these are right. Neither of these are true about me and about how I work. But I don't have, there's no contact on here. There's no way to like say, like submit some sort of feedback on this AI generated slop article thing their test they've given me. Like, so there was no way for him to like give any information that was like, this is whatever you guys use to generate this thing is terrible. And clearly these people didn't know it was like, how could you know it was that terrible if you're using it?
They don't know, because to your point, they created it, they did some test, it worked, so they shipped it. And then your husband gets it and it doesn't work. How does he explain that to them? There's no way to contact them. There's no one to talk to. And it's broken, but they don't even know it's broken. And
then they're frustrated that they're interviewing the wrong people that can't voice their opinion and don't have a point of view and no perspective and no data-driven solutions. And they're like, why is this not working? And
now to defend the client side, they're being inundated with AI slop on the other end. I got an email. Hey, here's my resume. I want to apply for a software engineering job. I pull up the resume. I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, he's engineer at Amazon and formerly engineer at some startup. And then prior to that was Walmart, and graduated from a state college. I won't name it. And I thought, okay, interesting. I'm like, this is weird. Why do you email me? But all right. So I pull
and they want to be paid $5,000 a year.
and I put, but then I pull up the LinkedIn, and the LinkedIn bio matches it. And it was created a month ago. You cannot graduate college in 2018 and create your first LinkedIn a month ago. That just doesn't exist anymore. I mean, we interview too many people. But if you're at a company and you get these resumes and you get 1,000 of them when you open up a job rec, you're inundated with that. You're spending all this time going through it. So you go, you know what? So instead of having to call all these people, I'm going to create an online portal. They go through and they take this test. Boom. That'll save me a lot of time. And I'll actually work with the 15 or 20 copywriters, engineers, whatever that I want to. And it just becomes, one side uses AI to perfect what they're doing. The other side thinks AI will perfect what they're doing. And then you end up with bots talking to bots, and it's nonsense. And that is where we come in. And
that's where a lot of the market is getting super frustrated, both on the candidate side and the employer side. Is like there's just a lot of this AI nonsense, AI noise that is just like frustrating everyone.
Yeah. I would say right now, if I had to start looking for a job, LinkedIn would not be where I would go first. I am a person who, when I changed careers, I got my first 2 jobs in tech from cold email, or like from cold like applications on LinkedIn. And I know it's really rare for people to get those. And I think it's because I have a funky, interesting resume as like a career changer. But my first 2 jobs were just like random, hey, saw your resume, thought this was interesting, would love to call you in for an interview. I just don't think that happens anymore, right? Because I would have been like weeded out. I would not even have gotten an interview if you had a bot looking at my resume. They would just see actor. What is she doing? She has no experience as an engineer. Why would we call her in? You know, like that. I wouldn't have a career if I was trying to make this change right now. And so I am a big fan of just doing it old school. I would contact everyone in my network. And honestly, part of going back to New York is so I can be around my network, so that if for some reason I do lose my job, guess what? I was a voice teacher for many, many years in New York. I could start teaching voice lessons again, right? Like I'm a pretty scrappy person. I can figure it out, but a lot of my figuring it out is not necessarily going to be with AI. It's going to be with connections with people, humans, because I think that's how we get jobs.
Really saying is she's going to star with a recruiting agency. She's going to star in Wicked again. We're going to be back.
I've heard, connect with a good recruiter that you trust and believe in, or recruiters, I say even multiple, and go human to human connection. Who do they know? Start with your network through people you've worked with at G2 and Spotify, and actually use your human connections, because they have human connections, and it might not be the first connection, but it'll be the second or third one in there.
So we're bringing the Rolodex back.
Well, I'm not against recruiters. I think that is the human to human connection, right? Yeah. Like a good recruiter who is an actual human, who has a network that you don't have access to. Because I recognize like my my ability to network and the way that I do it is not necessarily how not everybody has access to what I have. But there are a lot of people who need that, right? They need your network. They need you to go do that. And if you are not a real person and they don't feel like they can connect with you and actually have a conversation and build a relationship with you, there's no way that there's going to be anything beyond that. It's all going to be very shallow, and it's going to be very hard to get a job without anything else.
Totally agree. What would you say has been from your job perspective, the single biggest change, not the company, but from what you do in April of 2022 to today? How has your job changed the most?
I mean, like I said at the beginning of this call, I don't know if I've actually written a line of code in months. Which, to be honest, once what was it? GitHub Copilot came out, it started making auto-filling things in. I was like, oh, that's faster. I don't have to think about the format of what a function is. It's just going to auto-fill it out for me, right? Now I just have to fill in the details. And now I literally my job is primarily coaching the AI, asking it to create things, creating a plan of action. Like, how are we going to do this? Like, give me a layout for every single step. Let's talk through each thing. Let's talk through best practices. Let's talk through security measures. Let's lay out the pros and cons. My day is filled with collaborating with an AI, and it is then going and writing all the code. And then I am reviewing it, but I'm also reviewing it with a different AI tool to get a different perspective on the code. So I'm like, hey, let's go review this, and look through the code base. Is this following all the best practices? Is this using the libraries it's supposed to be using? So my day-to-day is entirely different than it used to be. I used to, as a creative person, the thing I loved about engineering was that there was this flow state that I would get into. And also we mentioned this before, but ADHD, very much have ADHD. So I love a flow state. I love getting blinders on, let's just hours disappear and we are building something. And that is not much of my job anymore. And so I've been navigating, what is this? Does this fulfill the thing that I want? And I'm finding the conversations that I'm having with AI are fulfilling some of that, right? Because there is kind of this quick, what is the word that I'm looking for? When you do something and you get it right back, right? What's up?
A quick dopamine hit.
Yeah, a quick dopamine hit, right? I'm do this and it does it. I'm cool. So at least it's satisfying a little bit of that ADHD hit that I need. But it is a very different work day. My day is spent waiting a little bit more for the AI to process stuff. So making sure I don't get distracted during that downtime, finding ways to, I'm constantly amazed by how quickly I can produce things, and then I'm constantly amazed by the blockers that then take way longer than they should. But I haven't written a line of code. I'm just reviewing. I'm like a glorified code reviewer. But again, with context, I don't know if a junior engineer would be as productive as I am with what I'm doing, because I have years of context now, right? I know which questions to ask the AI. I know how to talk through security measures. I know how to talk through and ask the right questions of the AI to be why are we doing this? Why did you do that? Right. And criticize it and make sure that we're actually coming up with a good solution, as opposed to just being cool, look what it built. It's just slop. Right. So at least while the day-to-day has completely changed, there's still this energy and excitement around it. It's just very different. And I'm still in this process of figuring out what that is.
So far, we have come full circle today. We have gone through AI is destroying things. AI is awesome and helps me build. And I think we're going to keep going through that. And I'm finding that AI is amazing as long as there's human with context behind it to use the tool properly. No different than a paintbrush or any other tool we've ever had. When we give it to AI and say, AI, do everything, we end up with slop, we end up with a mess, we end up with a test that frustrates your husband.
Yeah.
When it is a human using AI as a tool to help them build something, we end up with more productive people who are able to create and build more. So we've just solved the world's problems.
There you go.
All in one short podcast.
As a tool, not the solution to everything.
So we're going to wrap up here. Someone who is heavily involved in podcasts, what can we say in the next minute to make this go viral?
Oh my gosh.
Yep. No, you got to figure the campaign for this.
Well, wait. I mean, we need a hook, right? A TikTok hook. That's what we need.
Dang it. We have to make Taylor dance.
No, I was going to say
we had to make Taylor, you're in the middle. We had to make you dance. You got to do like one of those, this thing.
What's a video game? Oh, my kids do it. All right. So what is your favorite spot, your favorite podcast?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, this is kind of embarrassing, but I love Smosh Reads Reddit stories. It's dumb. And sometimes I just need to turn my brain off, and I'm obsessed with it. And my other one that I really, really like is Science Versus, because they like take very public trending health topics and science topics, and then they break it down and they do all the research, and they figure out, like, they debunk, or they say, actually, there's some legitimacy to this. And it's quirky and clever and funny, and I like it.
I like Pardon My Take. But that's like easy. It's a big, sports one. They're good. And I can fall asleep to it. Not saying it's boring. I like it. It's just an easy, if I get through 5 minutes or 30 minutes, doesn't matter. Shane?
I don't listen to a lot of podcasts.
Well, now you need to start.
I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, yeah.
You need to start. For Carla's sake, you need to start listening to Science Versus.
It's good.
All right, what's your favorite TV show that's on right now?
Oh my gosh. I just finished Fallout.
I'm like on episode 4 or 5. It's pretty good, but I just binge watched Paradise because Taylor's been talking about Paradise nonstop, and I was in Jamaica, and as I was flying back, I literally binge watched the entire first season in a matter of 48 hours.
Yeah, Paradise.
It was gross.
Have you watched Paradise, Carla?
No. What's it on?
Oh, Hulu.
Oh, okay.
Hulu?
Yeah. Hulu, Disney, all that fun stuff. It's really good. It's ridiculous.
Fantastic. And I'm a tough critic, and it's awesome. So Carla, it's been 3 years. We really appreciate you coming on. I love doing these follow-ups because, again, I like doing the first one. So anyone who wants to come on, who's big in the tech space, or a founding engineer or CEO or something like that, let us know. We'd love to host you. But I love some of these follow-ups where we get to meet someone 3-4 years later and go, actually, it's been exactly 4 years. It was April 22. It's April 26. So 4 years, the world has changed dramatically. And seeing you go from G2 to Spotify and all the changes that have happened, and obviously the most important, having a kid. And I love hearing all of this stuff. And now you're moving to New York. This has been a really, really fun podcast, and I appreciate you coming on. So thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me again.
To everyone else, do what you're supposed to do on podcasts. Carla, aren't they supposed to like it, subscribe, and comment, and do all of these?
Just send it to your friends.
Yes, go viral. Make this thing viral for us. All right. So this was a ton of fun. Subscribe, like it, comment. To everyone, we will see you guys probably in about a week. So thank you, Carla, and everyone. Goodbye.